welcome to Final Fights. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who has a love that loves in times of love tattooed on his forearm. It's Tom Trezemer.
And right underneath it, I have a MacGruber tattoo as well.
I do. I love Vicky St. Elmo and MacGruber, man. Oh my gosh.
I do.
Now, I gotta say, this is our probably 7th Final Fight that we've covered, and this features all of our favorites. We have rocket launchers, we have grenade launchers, we have elbows, and we have headbutts.
And then random gunfire as well.
I mean, this is a final fight that in a minute and a half, this is a 90-second fight. And then it features about a total of, it features 14 strikes, and then, I would say 16 strikes, 30 to 45 bullet shots, 1 grenade, 1 rocket, and 1, I counted the P as like a weapon, like as a strike in this.
I was going to say in about a gallon of urine.
Yeah. Cause it's meant, we should count it as a strike. Like if judges judge this fight, that would count.
Oh yeah. I
mean, MacGruber wins by brutal death, but still, so I added that in there.
It's interesting for all the MacGruber lovers out there. It's, the movie is built off of like a gag after another and topping the next moment with something outrageous. And it's what's more outrageous than getting out of, the nuclear disaster that they averted, just minutes before this final fight. So it's like they had nowhere to go but going up and just make this as brutally one-sided and really offensive as possible.
And you know what's interesting? As far as final fights goes, we don't get any catharsis. So when we watch Rob Roy and when he beats Archibald Cunningham, there's a feeling of just relief and wow. But in this one, it just goes so gross and over the top that there's no feeling of good after this fight. The audience, and that's a credit to Jorma Taccone and then Will Forte and John Solomon who wrote this. It's that you feel dirty after the end of this fight. You don't feel good about yourself and you're not cheering. It's just a nasty, on par with the rest of the film, death. But
it's a cheap fight is what it is. It's a cheap, dirty fight by both guys. In the audience, what's great that you mentioned is the audience feels that way. And if you're not watching this with wide eyes and, mouth gaping open going, oh my God, what did I just see? Then, something's wrong with you. But the fact that the people in the attendance of his wedding love what's going on. Like they just all have like slow motion head nods to him just sucker punching Dieter Von Cunth in the mouth and then shooting him up.
I love it. Ryan Phillippe's cheering, Powers Booth is happy. And so I guess this fight scene starts. And I got to say one thing too, is this fight scene's really good at tying up loose ends. So Dieter Von Cunth, played by Val Kilmer, blows up MacGruber during his first wedding in 2000 with Maya Rudolph. So he blows her up. And oddly enough, they knew each other in the 70s. It took them about, 30 years to get married?
It took them a very long time,
It took like 22, 23 years for them to get married to Casey. So Dieter blows up Casey. 10 years goes by. MacGruber foils Dieter, and MacGruber's going to get married to Vicky St. Elmo. It makes me so happy. They're going to get married. Dieter comes back with one hand because we see the axe from earlier with the rocket launcher, which I loves, and they blow up the pastor of the service. And I think it's one of the best pre-blown up screams I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, it's a fantastic scream. You hear his high-pitched scream, and then during the explosion, you also get tiger or a lion, some sort of big cat screech as well that coincides with the explosion.
Every explosion in this movie sounds like a jaguar, doesn't it? It makes me so happy.
Yes.
So you have the explosion, you have blood everywhere. Dieter comes out of nowhere, tackles MacGruber, and that's the only strike he gets in.
He gets up there so fast after that explosion.
Yeah, he does.
It's like he teleports right up there to the little hut.
No, I have a question. Does MacGruber have like a spider sense to him? Because as Dieter is about to blow him up, he senses it. He knows that rocket's coming. Is that like a sixth sense that Mac has? Does he have spider sense? Does he have... what does he have?
I was thinking that same exact thing. He's got some sort of Haley Joel Osment sixth sense thing going on. Or he's thinking back to him and Casey's wedding, and that's when he was blown up before.
Oh, yeah.
So it's right before he says his vow, or his simple I do, that's when Von Cunth blew them up previously. So I don't know, maybe it was a bit of both with it. MacGruber, I would say it's a bit of both. Anything's possible with that handsome man.
You watch this movie and they build up MacGruber. So they talk about his war record, but then children steal from him. And they talk about how he's a killer and he looks terrible with guns. They talk about his lovemaking. He's horrible at it. I love how they build him up and then they just blow him. They just deflate all of his win. But this final fight, though, once Dieter gets the tackle and the bear hug, he gets elbowed in the face 9 times. And then MacGruber uppercuts him, hits him with a piece of wood, then chops him in the face. It gets as one-sided as they come, which kind of goes against MacGruber, right? Because normally everything goes against MacGruber.
It does. Everything is always against him, and he always screws up somehow. More than anything, he usually fails forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, he may divert a terrorist attack, but he kills everybody in the process, but he still stops somebody from doing something. This is one of those few times in his life, probably going all the way back to his University of Texas El Paso football days, that he actually does something very well and succeeds. And he just decimates Von Cunth in the fight.
And you know what I love is once he starts beating up Von Cunth, I think everyone gets really sort of happy. You're like, yeah, this is great. Oh, no, and he also kicks him right in the balls, too. So he does a ball kick on him after the wood hit. But then he gets Cunth down, and you just think he's going to get his revenge. But MacGruber, being MacGruber, he's like, I'm going to do something I've wanted to do to you for a long time. I'm going to make you suck your own dick. And Val Kilmer goes, come and get it. Or Dieter goes, come and get it. And Vicky goes, ew. He pulls down Von Cunth's pants, and there's just nothing there.
It's just a fleshy patch of where it used to be.
He's like, it was blown up in the fire. And MacGruber is just angry about it. Everyone's appalled.
It was blown up in the explosion. What a redundant thing to say. And I'm sorry, I don't want to get too gross here, but how did it explode? Instead of disintegrating or burning away, he said it blew up. It was blown up in the explosion. If that's not bad enough.
Maybe a little chunk of something got in there and it just blew up. I like to think that it blew up. Does that a bullet flies?
I do.
Something happened. No, this is 6 months. So he's had 6 months to get better. But yeah, I mean, I would say I'm happy saying it blew up.
I love how he says it was blown up in the explosion, and then he has the audacity to stand up and he goes, "Are we done here?"
Yeah. When he's going to leave and go eat?
Are we done here?
Does he think that MacGruber's going to let him go? He's like, I got you, Mac. What is going through his brain, Von Cunth, when he says that?
He just thinks that he can do anything he wants, I suppose.
Yeah, you're right.
No, we're not done here.
Then he headbutts him, and then he pushes him. And this is a scene that's pretty subtle, and what I like about this movie. Prior to the scene, watching MacGruber shoot guns was horrifying. I think they stole from Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China, how scared Jack was with his gun.
Oh, yeah.
So Jack Burton looks all afraid. MacGruber looked all afraid.
They're both iron Uzis, too.
And when Piper, oh yeah, you're right. When Piper throws the M4 with an added grenade launcher to it, to MacGruber, actually, this is interesting because Piper actually loads it first. He makes sure it's ready to go for him. But then Mac just aims the gun. All right, so I just want to say something real quick. Von Cunth is falling off that cliff for 22 seconds. Now I'm
so happy you timed that.
There's some slow motion. There's some other aspects to it, but he's falling for 22 seconds, just dropping to the ground. And during this time, Mac gets a gun from Brian Phillippe, Lieutenant Dixon Piper. Oh, Dix Piper. Mac just loads. I think he almost hits. He hits Von Cunth with every single bullet. He's got, in this 6 months' time, now MacGruber knows how to rip throats, make terrible bombs, and shoot guns well. That's scary.
That is scary.
And he just... Oh, sorry.
No, and you were mentioning the subtlety of this as well. And what I think is absolutely hilarious is, they set kind of the establishing shot of this wedding. And you think it's just this little beautiful resort, or, maybe at the edge of a little park or something like that. And after he gives that great wet-sounding headbutt, then he just body pushes him out the back side of that hut, and then it's just a giant drop-off cliff face. And it's so ridiculous that, you wouldn't think that they would have built that literally within inches of a cliff face.
Yeah, with no protection. Like, what if someone slips?
None. It's like a paper wall that he goes through.
And that's the same location where Maya Rudolph was blown up, too. It's the same place.
That's right.
So isn't that crazy? He went to the place where his fiance was blown up.
Dude, he's got to get it right.
But I do love when he starts shooting him with the gun, which is subtle because he's actually gotten really good with it. They never say it. But he goes, F you, dude. I'm not going to say the word. And then he takes he pegs Von Cunth perfectly with that grenade. I mean, you fall for 22 seconds. That's a long ways away. Like, that's a perfect shot.
Cunth is falling as he's unloading full auto fire with his gun, and then you actually see Cunth's body splat on the ground below. And then he shoots the grenade launcher. So it's like this guy's riddled with 30 rounds. He's fallen at least 1,000 feet. He's a pancake below. And then he has to really go over the top with it.
It blows him up. I mean, and then what's the worst is you see the remains of Von Cunth. He's a pancake, and he's charred. He's a charred...
The only thing that you know that it's him is that ponytail is still there.
I love that. And I love when he rips off MacGruber's hair, and then he starts dancing with two ponytails. It's an odd scene. But so he's charred, the charred corpse. And then MacGruber puts out the fire with his own pee. It's crazy.
I think that's resourceful.
Yeah, I mean,
he doesn't want to burn the place down.
Yeah, it could be a drought warning.
And knowing him, I'm sure he's had several beers before that wedding anyways.
Some Molsons?
He's had some Molsons, yes.
I mean, it's just a perfect shot.
It is a great shot. And it's because the camera is staying on that burned out husk of Von Cunth, and then just from the top, you just see that little trickle, that steady stream of pee coming, and it gives you that moment where you're like, no, he's not doing that. There's no way he could be doing that. But I want to say, think about the aim of that. Perfect aim from that height. You would think the wind would just get that and just spray it.
And the density of it.
Man. That is a strong flow. That is something to be proud of.
I mean, once again, though, it ties it apart because MacGruber wants to cut off Von Cunth because he says it a lot in the movie. Like, MacGruber loves talking about, penises in this, but that he finishes it up by peeing on the guy. So it's very MacGruber-ish. Like, he spends almost the entire film talking about, like, dick jokes. And then he finishes it up with that kind of joke. And they show him, like, zipping back up.
I just love the real subtle. So then the camera jumps back behind Gruber standing, through the body punch out of where Von Cunth went, and then him just like shaking the final droplets out.
And to their credit, they didn't stretch the shaking out too much. They could have gone a lot longer with it, but they left it tastefully. I can't believe we're talking about this, but this is what's in MacGruber.
It is MacGruber.
It's crazy.
I love how he's just got the gun over his shoulder, just so nonchalantly.
Oh, man. And then he just turns around and looks at the crowd, and we get that terrible that lovely, weird montage of photos. And, I also know that during the fight scene, when all the wrestlers are back, when Tug is back, I got their names right here. So you have Frank Corver, Tut Beamer, Vernon Freedom, Tug Phelps, Tanker Lutz. I don't know if Brick Hughes is there. I didn't see Brick. But
wasn't Brick, the Giant?
Yeah, so, no, he wasn't with them, was he?
No, he wasn't in the van, but he was at the wedding because he catches the bouquet.
Oh yeah, you're right. But I love seeing the ghost friends just cheering when he uppercuts Von Cunth, like bringing.
And I don't know if that's an uppercut. I hate to contradict you. I think it's a handful of dirt.
Oh, because stuff did go flying
in his face. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he goes so cheap with it. After the kick to the balls, he grabs a handful of dirt and throws it in his face.
Oh, my gosh. Now, there's ghosts in this world. Can anybody else see the ghost? So he can see ghosts, MacGruber.
I think he's the only one that can see him.
Wow.
Because Casey pops out behind Vicky and, is like, I'm just joking, I don't object. And he gives like that, oh, thank you for your blessing type of thing. And everyone's trying to figure out who he's talking to.